observer still floating around Canata's base, and I do think it's important to get that engineering bay up and get those turrets down, especially when you're facing off against a Protoss opponent. But Canata's got his defenses well in play. Now the Dragoon's coming down as well. Second shuttle out, so he really realizes that he's only got one shot at this to effect a victory. He realizes that this is not a harass game for him. This is do or die. He's got to strike with surgical precision and cut open a deep gashes in his opponent's defenses and economy, and if he's unable to do that, he knows that he's so far behind that he will not recover. But Backho pushing forward now with the Dragoons. Canata has seen it coming. He's positioning. We're just looking at Canata's first-person view mode here, and I believe he's seen those shuttles en route as well. Canata has seen those shuttles with the Dragoons coming in, and Canata just not able, Backho not able to get really in range. Now coming in with the drop, well, one of the shuttles gets taken down before it drops a single unit. Disaster for Backho. He drops only the single Reaver. The Reaver dies. The Zealot dies. Backho, face etched in agony, ready to just despair. Well, actually despairing already, and that folks is GG. It has to be said, that folks is GG. Which gives me time, insolently enough, with another 6 minutes left in this game, to reflect upon the discussions we've been having about the movies. I find it really interesting, the reactions of some of you guys reacting quite vociferously against my opinions. Obviously, I wasn't giving a detailed review, you know, because I'm trying to commentate a StarCraft game, and I was just probably giving you the headlines. But I find it interesting, and I think it's interesting how when you reinforce people's opinions, they're happy that you give your opinion, but when you say something that undermines someone else's opinion, they seem to react quite negatively to it. It's almost as if our opinions are so tied into our own ego, and obviously that shouldn't be the case. But yeah, I find that fascinating. Where, you know, for example, when I criticize Star Trek, obviously people who liked Star Trek a lot, when they hear someone saying actually it was a crap movie, it probably makes them feel almost insulted, because you're kind of undermining their opinion a little bit. Whereas I always believe that, you know, you should try and have on objective issues, you should try and always have an objective, impartial debate and discuss things without allowing yourself to be personally affected by them. But I guess that is the tragedy of the human ego. But anyway, on that issue, one of you guys did mention Transformers as being the biggest blockbuster of the summer, most anticipated blockbuster of the summer. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that. I think if you look at the Harry Potter franchise, which is absolutely massive and has a gigantic following around the globe, you've got Star Trek, which is probably the most established franchise, and then you had Terminator, which is again a huge franchise, and X-Men, obviously. I would say X-Men probably, I would say Star Trek and Harry Potter probably fighting for the biggest franchise name, Terminator close second, and then you got X-Men probably after that, in terms of popularity around the globe and fan bases. But yeah, I am looking forward to the Transformers movie. And actually, speaking of that, I wanted to ask you guys a question about that. Canata just planting a few spider mines around the map and just ratcheting up that macro. Another 4 factories going down. It looks like this is going to be going into an ace matchup, guys, and it'll be interesting to see who sent out the ace matchup selections. The way it works, again, as I explained to you guys, the coaches know the map order and they put the players on the maps, except for Game 5. Game 5, if it has to happen, it's decided on the spot which player will feature for which team. But again, you don't know who you're going to be up against, so you just try and put your best player on the map and hope they can pull out the victory. So we can expect to see some great action as this goes through to Game 5. And Canata once again going for a last-ditch effort here, but really after that last attack failed so horribly, shuttle being taken down without dropping a single unit. That was just, those 2 raids really proved decisive in that battle. Even if they hadn't, I feel that Canata was in a very strong position to defend, and now Canata is just going to push out. And Backho really has got nothing to fight this with. He doesn't have nearly the number of Zealots he's going to need against those siege tanks. He's got primarily a force filled with Dragoons. Now he's got a small group of Zealots, but literally when the Terran opponent has equal number of units to the Protoss opponent, I'm not sure that's a great situation in the early mid-game for the Protoss player when the Terran opponent has many siege tanks as you have Dragoons. It's just a crazy situation for Backho to be in, unfortunately, and now his Observer's getting taken down as well. And it has been a lackluster performance from Backho, but I think he probably feels that he has been put in a situation where he hasn't really been expected to win, and I think that's not something that's going to do his confidence a world of good, even though I feel he has tried his best on a map that he was never really counted on to produce on. But yeah, I wanted to ask you guys about Transformers and your opinions on this. I've been having this argument with a good friend of mine for a while now, and he's a huge Transformers fan, and he was hugely, and it looks like actually Backho is going to try and push out a little bit here to try and push back Canada's forces as he's laying those spider mines down just outside Backho's natural expo, and Backho boxed into that top left-hand corner of the map. Another observer nearly dying, but escaping just in the nick of time. lone shuttle for Backho. I don't really know what he's going to be able to achieve with such a small army. Canata with almost a full control group of factories at this stage. Backho once again coming forward with the Dragoons, just trying to prevent Canata from just tightening that noose right around his throat. Supply depot as well going down for Canata, just building obstacles around the map to slow down those zealots. Backho has got a decent number of zealots down, but I just feel he's so vastly outnumbered here. If he can get some great storms off, dropping from that shuttle, then maybe he would have a chance. Now finally Backho committing himself, but he's coming into a kill zone here. Those zealots still not reaching the tanks, and now finally getting in range. Decent storms by Backho, really good storms right on top of the siege tanks. He managed to get the storms on range, but Canata's push contain is so deep that unfortunately Backho was only able to penetrate a couple of layers of it before he ran out of zealots, and Canata's reinforcements arrive, and Canata actually holds. That was actually close. He almost took out all the siege tanks, and maybe if he'd pushed forward, but unfortunately for Backho, he had no idea of knowing exactly what Canata had behind there, and Canata able to reinforce. Backho pushing out yet again. Canata has the time to get those spider mines down. Backho just doesn't have the zealots to get really within range, but this time he's bringing his dragoons in. He's committing himself to this attack this time around. He's got a couple of storms. If he can get a storm off on those siege tanks, that could make all the difference, but yet again pushed back from the brink. Canata's fortress holds with perhaps 3 or 4 siege tanks left, and reinforcements arrive for Canata, and Canata obviously with the superior macro at this stage in the game and the superior economy is just going to be able to overrun Backho now, because Backho's run out of units. Those zealots finally managed to get great mine drag on the siege tank, but the zealots get taken out alongside with it as well, and now Backho is finished. So Backho putting up a spirited effort in that last battle, but getting taken out. So yeah, just before this game winds up, about the Transformers, guys. The friend of mine who's a huge Transformers fan was really annoyed with the first Transformers. He said effectively that they were supposed to be, they should actually be things that look like they're cars that turn into robots, or look like they're planes that turn into robots, and that is indeed how the original cartoons were, whereas these Transformers, they don't look anything like them when they're actually in Transformer, when they're actually in robot mode. When they transform, they just superimpose an image, a holographic image of whatever it is that they're trying to represent. And I gotta be honest with you, I actually disagree strongly with him on that, because in the original Transformers, obviously you had cars transforming into robots, and that was a really cool concept. It was a great concept. But if you think about it from a science fiction perspective, it was actually quite naive, because an alien civilization that has developed millions of miles away from us, galaxies away from us, God knows how many light years away from us, is not ever gonna have the same sort of technology that we do. They're not gonna have cars and airplanes, and so therefore a machine-based intelligence is gonna have no reason to look like cars on planet Earth. Or trucks, or fighter jets, or helicopters for that matter. It makes so much more sense to have robots or machine intelligences that then project holographically the image of whatever it is that they're transforming into, to camouflage and blend better within the environment, and to take best advantage of the environment. So I feel, even though I don't think Michael Bay is the greatest director in the world, I think he got that one spot on. I think that was clever. I think that was proper science fiction, and even though it wasn't true to the canon. Anyway, guys, this is Klazart. We'll continue this in the next game. Thanks for listening.